preview tomorrow's matchups to wrap up Group C at these European Championships. We got England taking on Slovenia, and then Denmark taking on Serbia. Interesting games, a little bit different sort of stakes between the games. Now, just to wrap up, just to recap real quick, this group, England is first place right now with this group with 4 points. Then everything from there on is tight. Denmark second, Slovenia third, both with 2 points. Actually has aggregate. They have the same goals for, goals against, goal differential. So they're really like tied second and third, but they're really both second, to be honest, at this point right now. Now, obviously, if it stays like that, then we have whole like, I believe it's FIFA Fair Play or something of that sort. I don't know. Well, hopefully, we don't have to get to there. Hopefully, these results decided here. And then Serbia right now is currently sitting bottom of the group with 1 point. But if you heard what I said, all these 3 teams, second, third, fourth, they're all separated by a point. So really, it really just comes down to that final group game. Now, to start off, the England-Slovenia game, I think obviously Slovenia, they're going to come in playing for everything. Realistically, well, they're in an interesting position, actually. I believe they could get through with a draw. I think they will get through with the draw, because a draw will be that'll put them on 3 points. They'll be safe from finishing last in the group, because if they have 3 points, they'll be safe from finishing last no matter what. Because if Serbia and Denmark tie, that's not enough for Serbia to jump past them. And if Serbia beat Denmark, then Denmark will only have 2 points. And then if it finishes in a tie, that's not going to be good enough. And if Denmark wins, well, they'll still be above. So Slovenia, they are through into the knockout stages with a draw. 3 points is enough because their goal differential is 0, while Croatia, they're third place, they have 2 points. And Hungary, they're third place, right, but they're -3 goal differential. So Slovenia will get in with a point. They will get in with a point, and that really is probably going to be the objective for them, in the fact that they don't have the quality to match up player for player with this England team. An England team that has underperformed. Now, I'm not going to underestimate them. They do have Jan Oblak in goal, who will be important in this game because he will get tested. And they do have somebody in Benjamin Sesko that has quality up top. And when you have that guy up top and the guy in the back, you're always going to have a chance, because overall the team is pretty decent. They play good in transition. They get their fullbacks up there, and they're not afraid to make runs into the box. They play with a lot of desire, a lot of courage. So, and they play up to the quality. I think they played really well up against quality opponents in Denmark, Serbia. I don't see how they just completely lay an egg against England. I don't see it. I think this is going to be a tight game. Now for England, obviously, now they're safe. They're through to the knockout stages, right? But that's not enough for England. This is an England team that came into these European Championships as favorites, and they've been very poor these first couple of games. Now, I assume they're going to go with the full team. They don't want to jeopardize themselves winning the group. I think winning the group is going to be very important. I think they're going to come with the full team. Don't think Trent will play. I think it'll probably be Gallagher that comes in for him, something of that sort, and change it up a little bit for this England national team. And it's very important. They cannot go into the knockout stage games after a third bad performance, because that's just a horrible way to go into the knockout stage. They have to turn it around. They have to be dominant in this game. I don't see it happening. I don't see them turning around, because it's a Slovenia team that they're going up against that's playing for something, number one. But number two, that's shown their ability to play against higher quality teams, because Denmark and Serbia have more quality as a team than Slovenia, but they were able to play up to them. And I don't see why they can't play up to England. I think with England, there's the major questions, the Gareth Southgate questions. You have some pundits that are talking about the players, saying words that the players don't like, and then you have some players responding, like Harry Kane, who responded to something Lineker said about the national team, saying, "Remember what it was like to represent this jersey." Well, I'm not gonna get into that. I think the English players, in general, they just need to be able to tune it out, stop being a little soft. I'm not gonna lie. As far as the team, though, the performance has not been good enough in both games. They've, they've been way too pragmatic, especially after scoring a goal. They've allowed the other team to be a protagonist. Teams that, let's be honest, Denmark and Serbia have a combined don't think Denmark and Serbia have a single player, both of them together, don't have a single player that'll get into this England 11. I don't think Denmark or Serbia's starting 11 has a single player that will start for England. Not a single one. Not a single one. Maybe you could say, no, not Eriksson, not at this stage in his career. No. Not a single player for Denmark or Serbia will get into the England starting 11. Not a single one. Honestly, much of them, how many players from Denmark and Serbia together could get into the England squad in general? You got potentially a Vlahovic maybe, Eriksson maybe, Schmeichel maybe. Is that about it? And these are players, and these are teams, by the way, that are not just going in there and having decent performances against England. They're outplaying them. They're being the main protagonists. They're the ones controlling the ball, and they're forcing England to be pinned back. And England is sucked in, so pinned back that when they regain the ball, they have no outlet to play it out. It's been so poor from England. And then you got Southgate coming out with daft statements like, we don't have a replacement for Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips that hasn't been part of the setups and now for 2 years. A Calvin Phillips that doesn't play for West Ham no more. You have the golden generation of English players. You have, in terms of squad talent, you have a team that's deemed worthy of being the favorites of this European Championship. Enough with the excuses. It's time to address these performances head on, and they're just not good enough. And it's not because Calvin Phillips, you don't have a replacement from Calvin Phillips. You can't get the tactical setup right with this team. You're experimenting with a right back as a holding midfielder. You have Phil Foden playing a position that he hasn't played at all for Manchester City this season in what's been his best season up to this date, winning Premier League Player of the Year. I could go on and on. Harry Kane, that first game. How the heck did he survive 90 minutes? Just so many questionable decisions that Southgate has made. And I don't want to absolve the players from the blame. The players are to blame too. These players, by the way, they go into their club teams and they don't play with this sort of defensive mentality. Jude Bellingham does not play with this sort of mentality against Real Madrid. Phil Foden with Man City? Hell no. He doesn't have this mentality. None of these players have this sort of mentality when their club of, whenever they put on an England jersey, suddenly they play more like players that are scared to lose rather than, try to win. They play with no sort of courage. None of them. I think Bellingham is in that Serbia game. In that Denmark game, I thought it was not that good. But in that Serbia game, I thought he played with some courage. And the fact that even in the second half, he was one of the few players for England that was trying to dribble out, that was really trying to, go on and push the team up. The rest of them, though, they play with such lack of courage, and they play with the fear that is just wrong. And their European Championships could be over really, really quickly if they don't fix. Now, in terms of them being a favorite, just forget about it. They're not winning this European Championship. They're not at the level of Spain, Germany, France, even to an extent to Portugal. They're not at that level, not at this day and age. But at least they need to go on some sort of run, in my opinion. And I don't see that happening right now. Depending, if they get the wrong matchup in the round of 16, I don't know if probably not. It's gonna happen because if they win the group, they'll probably face a third place team. But then if they have to go in the quarterfinals, and they don't even need to play one of these top teams. If they play, a Netherlands in the quarterfinals, we might be saying adios to them in the quarterfinals again. But this time, not to a top level team in France. And then as far as the Slovenia-Serbia game, obviously, or Serbia-Denmark game, obviously Slovenia, if they get the point, it makes it a little bit tricky. But the Denmark-Serbia game is really simple for both teams. You win and you move on. You win and you move on. Now, Serbia, they have to win the game. They have to win the game. They absolutely have to win the game. Denmark, they get a point. They're also in the same boat in Slovenia. If they get a point, they'll probably be in as a third-place team, maybe even a second-place team, depending on what happens with Slovenia and England. No, they are in. They are in because they're gonna. Serbia's not gonna. Serbia's only gonna be on 2 points. So depending on what, if Denmark gets a point in this last game, they are in because of the goal differential being 0. But if they win this game, then they have a good chance finishing second in this group, which will make it a little bit easier. The biggest thing for them is them to avoid defeat, and Serbia, they have to go and they have to win this game. So that's going to be interesting. I think Denmark gets this done. I think Denmark has just a little bit more quality than them. I trust their abilities to control the game. They have the experience in these sort of moments too. These are a lot of the players who were on the team that made the European Championship semifinal. I think they'll see it out. I think Serbia, I've had a real question marks with them throughout this entire tournament. They're a little bit lucky to be at this point right now, even with the point in the way that they survived against Slovenia. So, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting. Last day in this group. Wow, that's actually so interesting.